Welcome back to the Bad Blue Podcast, people. Well, it's not much of a podcast, it's more of an interview. We've got the main man, Nick Dunn, here. We want to go over a couple of things with what's happening in Afghanistan at the moment. Nick, it's not good, is it?
Well, it's not good, no. First and foremost, why did UK and US forces allow the advance of the Taliban into Kabul? That's the main question I think a lot of people are asking. Why did we allow them to take Kabul? Secondly, what a lot of people back in the UK don't realise is we cannot save everyone. It's unfortunate. We would love to save them all. But the pictures that I am seeing, whether they are photoshopped or legitimate, I'm struggling to see many women and children. So, according to the officials, they are being processed. Well, how can you determine whether these men or Taliban or interpreters working for the British government or Tom, Dick and Harry? That's the big thing, because in them countries, they will not have ID. They will not have paperwork. Obviously, those who did work with the UK and US forces will probably have a bit more background checks on them, and we'll be able to say certain things. So they may stand a chance. And if anyone needs priority, it's them, because they assisted US and British forces when on the ground conducting operations in Afghanistan. And without their assistance, we wouldn't have been able to do our job. So they, in my eyes, deserve priority. Then you got women and children and everyday walk of life, Tom, Dick and Harry. You've got to determine how many we can take. You know, I'm hearing the UK is going to take 20,000 people in. That's 20,000. What about other countries? How many are they taking in? Why is it always the UK that always seems to be the one that seems to be taking the most in?
Nick?
Yes.
Is it? Can I just pause you there? Sorry. How are we going to do all those background checks if you've referred to some of them might not even have documentation? How do we know that these are legitimate refugees and not infiltrators per se?
To me personally, I think that's a good question. The answer is, how long's a piece of string?
Yeah.
How do you know? Because women and children, yeah, okay, you can more or less basically look at them and think, well, yeah, okay. You still got to do your due diligence on them, because you know, in these parts of the world, they do use women and children as ways and means of getting around things, of sneak attacks. But I would think in this situation, the women and children, and when you see fear on people's faces, you kind of get a gist of legitimacy. You know, you can basically tell their innocent lives. And but for the fighting age males between the ages of 18 and 40, I'm seeing so many pictures of just men, and I'm like, well, where's all these women and children we're hearing about? You may get the odd picture or video clip of these on our media, but the media is doing this for simple reasons, and that's to play on the heartstrings of the people of the UK. And rightly so, we do need to help and assist, but it needs to be known we can't save everyone. What are we meant to do? Just take every innocent person out of Afghanistan till there's only Taliban left? That, in my eyes, is a kick in the stomach to the families of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I'm an ex-serviceman. I've been to Afghanistan. I'd do it all again. But my mind process when I was a serving soldier is I want to do my job and this, that, and the other, and hopefully I make a difference. But as a serving as a non-serving soldier now, my views is totally different.
Yeah.
I just think, has the 20 years been really worth it? In my honest opinion, no, it hasn't, because it just proof of what we're seeing on the news and hearing about. Less than 24 hours, it's the start of their advance to take over the country. What money and time and effort have we just wasted training the Afghan police, the Afghan army, to basically one day run their own country on their own accord, and they can't even do that. They've just put their hands up and run away. And I feel ashamed on how the British and American governments have acted on this.
Would you?
You know, it's not right.
Would you? Because as conspiracists will say, the resources have run out in Afghanistan. That's why everybody's left. You've been there before. The terrain is so difficult. The mountains. Is that part of the reason why they took the advance so much and so quick?
Yeah. The Taliban know the routes around the mountains. They know the ins and out of their country. They know how quickly they can take it, and they've just proved it. As for resources, the Taliban will stop the supply chain. Simple as that. And that's one way of flushing all the civilians out. We're hearing news reports that they're going door to door, knocking people up, seeing if they've got any links to working for the government, the army, the police, and executing them, I'd imagine. And as someone who is just a normal civilian and they're sat at home watching this on the news, you can understand where they're coming from. But as someone from a military background, we see things differently. And unfortunately, the media will always show you the worst case and blow it way out of context a bit, basically pulling on people's heartstrings. And that's somewhat not always true on what is really going on. But yeah, the Afghanistani Taliban fighters will have stopped supply chains, closing down markets. People scared. Of course, food's going to run out because, well, they're not getting it. So they're going to go to one location, and that's the airport. And as we're seeing reports, it's a free for all. It's
disturbing.
It's borderline hostile.
It is. It's disturbing, some of the footage and some of the scenes that's been coming and like this seen on the telly. How do you feel? I mean, it comes to no surprise that the Taliban have said that they're not going to be run by a democratic state. What's your views and thoughts on that?
Without going too much political route, we've only got to look at history. History, we learn from it and hopefully never to replicate it. Well, we're not learning with Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. It's a country that's very hostile. The terrain, for an instance, British Empire at its height failed on 2 occasions. These people are farmers, local Taliban fighters. They know their country like the back of their hand. They know all the strategic points. And every army, every nation that has been there, even the past 20 years, when you've got the mass of the American army, Canadian, other European allies fighting side by side, you'd think it would be a walk in the park, and it's proved not the case. It's just, you've got to scratch your head and think, have we actually wasted the time? Have we? On one side of the coin, no, we haven't wasted time. We've brought some sort of infrastructure. We brought a better way of life for them. Hopefully that they could one day stand on their own 2 feet. Obviously, this isn't the case. So that's where a lot of people will think we've rid the Taliban. We've gave them a infrastructure to a degree. We've gave them education. We've gave them a better way of life, and they just up sticks and run away like cowards. So going back to what I was saying earlier, the families of those who've lost loved ones, they must be sat there at home thinking, my husband, son, father, mother, sister, wife, who've paid the ultimate sacrifice for Queen and country, was it worth it? And you know what my personal opinion? No, it wasn't. We should just leave Afghanistan alone. I know people at home will think, well, if you were in that situation, you'd be doing the same thing. However, it's easier to say that than to see what exactly reality is. We can't save everyone, unfortunately. We can't. It's physically impossible. It's horrible what's happening in their country, but they want to rule their country how they see fit, their culture. The problem with us Westerners, we stick our noses where it's not welcome. And we are not welcome in Afghanistan. We are not appreciated in Afghanistan. And guess what? I guarantee you we'll start another 20 years all again. And for what? What? I don't understand. I just think we just need to pull out, get what we need to, i.e. people that we can save.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, just never go back. Try and broker a deal with the Taliban so there's no like mass executions and stuff like that. But that how can we guarantee that? They're saying they're not going to be doing this. They're going to be, playing on the amusement rides like we've seen videos of them. I don't trust the Taliban as far as I throw them. And neither does any Afghanistani who lives there.
The scenes prove that, Nick. The scenes prove that. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. We're not going to fall for that trick, the oldest trick in the book. We're not going to fall for that. And I guarantee you, service personnel will go back to Afghanistan and it'll be history repeating itself. That is honestly what I think is going to happen. I hope it doesn't, because no more lives need to be spilled. Enough lives have been spilled. That's all I can say.
What do you reckon will happen with obviously, clearly they're going to take full advantage of it, but the weaponry left behind by the US Army?
Well, not just the US Army, us as well. We trained the Afghan Army up. We trained the Afghan police up. We gave them kit and equipment. Who's got all that now? The Taliban.
Is that because obviously I'm not well versed in military stuff.
Yeah.
How worrying is that they now have some of our technology?
It is quite worrying because they've been shown how to use it, and some of these Afghan police and Afghan army will now be part of the Taliban. And the worrying thing is what skills they've learned, they can share. And you think about it, they'll have these big artillery guns, big guns, a lot of, and they can just start, decimating places. What if they started inbound attacking the airport? Just start dropping bombs in the airport right on the airfield. They can do that. They can do that. Who's to say that they won't? It's very worrying, and the American and UK delegates, foreign secretaries and Secretary of Defense, they've got a big task on their hands. I expect heads to be rolling after this.
What did they make of Boris Johnson's comments yesterday?
I've not physically read them, but what I have heard is it didn't go down too well. But we've got to take into consideration we all have different sort of opinions. Yes, he is the Prime Minister of this country, and he should be somewhat neutral from his own personal opinions and speak. He's representing us as a whole on this is the UK's stance. This is what the UK should be doing, X, Y, and Z. However, well, there's not a lot of people having a lot of faith in the British government currently. So whatever he said is just going to add fuel to the fire.
How do you feel about it? Again, it comes to no surprise, but China and Russia saying that they're all willing to work with them, the Taliban. How worrying is that? Do you think the West will allow the Taliban to be part of the international community? What has to be seen from the Taliban to say that they're not the same regime from the 70s up until right now?
They've got a lot of convincing to do, first and foremost, a lot of convincing. And they've said they will allow females to be educated to a university standard of level. Well, let's say that for starters. That obviously Shia law, our laws are totally different.
Yeah.
Their way of life, our way of life, it's totally different. But across the board, we allow and should allow our women to be equal amongst us, whether it be on pay or education levels. And they need to do that in Afghanistan. That is probably the first and foremost. Stop the killings, stop the executions. Whether you come across an Afghan army, Afghan police, or a female not doing what they expect them to do because, they still have their ways and beliefs. But do that first, and the West might start and think otherwise, because I'm a fond believer that people do and should deserve a second chance in certain aspects. But you got to take into consideration their way of life, their culture, and all this, what's been happening over the years and decades in Afghanistan. You can understand why they're the way they are and their beliefs. But if they want to change, they've got to prove it. Simple as that.
Right, Nick, I would love to speak to you longer. I'm not going to keep you because I know you're at work. It would be great to get you on to have an overall a longer perspective on your thoughts of what's happening. So
no problem.
When you're free, it'd be great to get you on.
Yeah, no problem. Like I say, I'm all down for the critics to come out and say, "Oh, well, I don't agree with what you said there." And they'll be the people that have never been to Afghanistan and just see what the TV shows them.
That's what I was just about to say. You've been there, you've experienced it.
I've been there. I've lost friends. I've had colleagues injured. In my time in the army, I've been blown up in a vehicle in Afghanistan myself. So I do, and I am aware. And there's a lot of mental health sufferers from Afghanistan. So if anyone who knows the ins and outs of Afghanistan, it's the soldiers who've been there and bled for this country. And I am not going to take any criticism from someone who has never been there, who just sits and watches the telly and thinks, "Oh, well, I think you're out." You don't know till you've been there and seen their people. You don't know. It's okay to say, let's take thousands in. How do you know they're legitimate? How do you not know they're Taliban? All they got to do is take their vests off with their ammunition, throw their weapons away. At the end of the day, they're just a bog standard Afghani then. Yeah,
I agree with that. That's why it's worrying. It's worrying to think that we are going to take 20,000 of them.
Yeah.
And I don't mean them as in, like, I'm not being horrible, but the Taliban, it's them.
20,000 people? Is that 10,000 men and 10,000 women and children? Or is it just,
That's
you
what I
know,
would. That's what I'm
10,000 potential terrorists?
That's what I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see the percentage of men, women, and the children that come. Is it going to
I
be
would like to
predominantly
see
men?
that, because the pictures that I see, it's just full of men. And I'm sorry, where's all the women and children?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Nick. But like I say, Nick,
Yeah.
it would be great to get you on like real soon.
No problem.
If we can arrange a time, I'll drop you a text
Yeah, no
after
problem.
this, and then we'll arrange it, and then we'll get it on, man.
Definitely, bud.
Right, Nick, much appreciated for your time.
No problem.
Honestly, if anybody's going to listen to a proper view of Afghanistan and a prospective view on it, it's yours. And like you rightly said, the people who served in that served for that country in that country. So I appreciate your time, Nick. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Speak to you soon, mate.
Ta-ra now.
Thank you.